Now that you've completed the assembly of your Tyrant S racing drone, we need to configure it. By configuring it, we're meaning setting up various functions and parameters on the flight controller so that the drone knows how to respond to your control inputs, and setting up some advanced features like the battery monitoring. Now, the Tyrant S flight controller is optimized for a configurator called Betaflight. So you will need to install Betaflight on your computer, and that is an extension for Google Chrome. So you'll need the Google Chrome browser and then the Betaflight extension, which there's a link for in this video. Once you've got that set up, you'll need a USB cable, the transmitter for your drone, your assembled Tyrant S racing drone, and a LiPo battery. And the things we're going to set up include the auxiliary switches on our transmitter, so they're going to allow us to switch modes and also arm and disarm the drone. We're going to set up a fail-safe, which means that should the communication between the transmitter and the drone fail, then the drone will come down to the ground rather than fly away out of control, which is really, really important. And we're also going to set up some warning buzzers for low battery monitoring. To power up the transmitter, hold the two power buttons simultaneously. The transmitter may warn you that the throttle stick needs to be in the lower position and the auxiliary switches all need to be in the up position before it can boot. We're going to set up the channels for the auxiliary switches and also the fail-safe, which will stop the drone flying away should it lose signal with the transmitter. Press the screwdriver and spanner icon to enter the settings menu. There are two menus, function and system. We want to be in the function menu. Scroll down to auxiliary channels or Aux Channels and select. And we're going to set these up as switch D will be channel 5, switch C will be channel 6, and switch B will be channel 7. So on channel 5, press the no entry sign and select SWX for switch. Then choose switch D. Now move along to channel 6. Again, press the no entry sign. SWX again. And this one will be switch C. Move along to channel 7. No entry sign again. SWX. And this one will be switch B. So we now have our auxiliary channels configured. Press the back button. And now scroll down to the bottom where you have fail-safe and select fail-safe. Now we need fail-safes switched on for channels 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is our all of our movement control axes. So select channel 1 where it says off, press there, and then press on to turn the fail-safe on for this channel. And you can see as we move the stick for channel 1, you can see this graph moving, which is the value of data that it's receiving. We want this one to be in the center. So just leave the stick in the center and press the setup button. And that will now get us 0% on channel 1, which is what we want, and press back. And you can now see that channel 1 is configured to go to 0%. Channel 2, again, we just want to leave all the sticks in the middle, press on and setup and back. So channel 2 is now 0%. Channel 3 is the only one that is actually slightly different because this is our throttle. Switch channel 3 on, and you can see here when I move the throttle that we have the value changing. We need this one to be minus 100%, so all the way down to the bottom. Press setup and back. And finally, channel 4 will also be central, so just leave all your sticks where they are, press setup and back. So you should have 0, 0, minus 100 and 0. Go back and back again to the main menu, and your fail-safe and auxiliary switches are now configured. Now I'm going to show you the software configuration for your drone. You'll need two pieces of software for this. You'll need Betaflight and you'll also need BLHeli configurator. So these are both plugins for Google Chrome or extensions for Google Chrome. and we'll put the links on the screen there so you can see where to download them if you haven't done so already. And we're going to start with Betaflight, and for this you're going to need your assembled Tyrant S drone. You want that connected via USB cable to your computer. You're going to need the transmitter, and you're also going to need a charged LiPo battery. When you first plug it in, it may take a few seconds to install the driver, but once it's installed, Betaflight will automatically detect a COM port for your flight controller. Show that there, so mine's COM61. When that comes on, you can then click Connect. And the first screen we're going to go to is the setup screen, and we can see this little virtual version of our drone there. And it should move in the same way that you move the physical drone. So place the drone on a flat table and then click the Calibrate Accelerometer button to level the drone. Then you need to go to the Configuration tab. And here we want to make sure that your ESC, electronic speed controller, so the motor controller, where it says ESC motor protocol, make sure that that is on DShot 300. Then scroll down. And where it says receiver, ensure that that is on PPM RX input. And right down at the bottom, you've got a battery voltage monitor. That should be switched on. It should be on by default. And leave the default values in here, they're fine. And basically what this does is it turns the warning bleeper on that is on board your drone when the battery voltage starts to get too low. That's your signal to land and come and change batteries. It stops the battery running out while you're flying, but also it stops you over discharging the lithium polymer battery. You need to be careful not to over discharge the batteries because they can become damaged. So when you've got all of those set, click Save and Reboot. And Betaflight will come back to the start screen. You then need to click Connect to reconnect. And now we're going to set up the receiver, make sure that's working. So if we click on the Receiver tab, and at this point we need to power up our transmitter. And it will warn you that you need to make sure that all of the auxiliary switches are in the up position and the throttle is all the way down. And then we need to connect our LiPo battery to the drone to power that up. And you see we haven't got any propellers on here. It's really important that you don't have propellers on for this part of the configuration. And you can now see if I move the right stick, left and right, the roll here moves, so we see we're getting data. Up and down on this one should be pitch. Yaw should be this one, left and right, and throttle up and down on the left stick. We can also check that our auxiliary channels are working, so switch D should be auxiliary 1. And that's got 2 positions. Auxiliary 2 should be switch C. That's got 3 positions. So we've got 1, 2, the central position, and then 3, which is the down position. And likewise on switch B, we've also got 3 positions. That's auxiliary 3, so up, middle, and down. So we can see that's working, that's fine. Now we need to configure the modes, so click on Modes. We're going to configure 3 modes on your drone, which can basically be considered beginner, intermediate, and advanced. The beginner mode is called angle mode. And what it means is that the angle of the drone is relative to the position of the control stick. So, for example, if the control stick is in the middle, the drone will sit pretty much level. If I move the stick to the left, the drone will bank to the left, proportionally to the amount that I move the stick. And it's limited to a maximum of about 45 degrees. So if I put the stick hard over, the drone can only go this far and it won't bank any further. If I let go of the the drone will go back to the central position. It's basically a self-leveling mode, so it's great for beginners. Now the most advanced mode, the expert mode, is called rate mode, or it's often referred to as acro mode for acrobatic. And the difference here is astonishing. If you want to do tricks like flips and rolls, then you need to be in the rate mode. But it's a totally different flying experience. It's called rate because the position of the stick actually changes the rate of movement rather than a relative position. Sounds really complicated, but if I move the stick just a tiny bit to one side, the drone will continue to roll. And it will continue to roll until I tell it to stop rolling by putting in the opposite input. But it won't self-level. It will keep rolling. And that means there's no limit. It can keep rolling until it's upside down and all the way around. And so that's what gives you your acrobatic mode. We do have a third mode, which sits in between the two, your intermediate level. It's called horizon. And horizon is a combination of angle and rate modes. So the sticks still have self-leveling, so if I let go of it, the drone will come back and sort of save you. It will get you back to a level position. But at the far extremes of the stick, you are in rate mode, so you can still do rolls and flips, but it will self-level. It will help you out a little bit. So you'll progress through the modes. Your first 3 or 4 hours of flight will probably be in angle mode. You'll progress to horizon mode, and finally onto rate mode. So the first thing we need to do is add our arm and disarm switch. So here we are, here's the arm section. Click Add Range. And this is on auxiliary 1, which is switch D. And you can see this little yellow indicator here. If I move that to the down position, it jumps up here to about 2,000. If I move it back to the up position, it jumps back to about 1,000. And these sliders allow me to set a threshold whereby the drone will be armed. So if this pointer is in this position, in the grey bit here, it's disarmed. So in the up position, it's disarmed. If I flick this switch down, the pointer jumps inside the yellow threshold and the drone becomes armed. Now I'm going to set up my angle and horizon modes. This is slightly different because we're using a 3-position switch now for this one. We're going to use switch C. So add range for angle and add range for horizon, and change these to auxiliary 2, which is switch C. And you see in the up position, both our pointers are on about 1,000. In the middle position, they both move to about 1,500. And in the down position, they both move up to about 2,000. So I want to configure it so that up is my angle or beginner mode, middle is my horizon or intermediate mode, and down is my rate or acro advanced mode. So what I'm going to do is for angle, slide my threshold sliders all the way down to the bottom and down to about 1,200. And for horizon, I'm going to leave them where they are in the middle there. And you see that when I've got the switch in the up position, this pointer is inside the threshold, so angle is activated. But the horizon one is outside of the threshold, so that's not. If I move down, angle is now outside of the threshold, so deactivated. But horizon is inside the threshold, so that's activated. And then if I move all the way to the bottom, neither angle nor horizon are activated, and so we are on acro mode or expert mode. Final thing we want to set up is the beeper. So scroll down to beeper, add range, and that one will be on auxiliary 3. And you can see here, it's a 3-position switch again. We've only actually got beeper on and beeper off that we're interested in. So I'm going to use both the middle position and the bottom position to turn my beeper on. So I'm going to just increase my upper threshold there. And so if I'm in either the middle or the down position, my beeper is activated. And that's basically an audible beeper on the drone that helps you find it, helps you locate it if you've lost it in a bush or behind a hedge or something like that. So when that's complete, click Save. And we are now complete in our mode configuration. So now if I flick the arm switch here, you can see my motors start turning. They're only turning at very small, very slow speed. So disarmed, not turning. If I arm them, they turn. and I can then gently increase the throttle just a tiny bit, because without propellers on we don't want to increase it too much. You can hear the motor speeding up there. And at any point, if I disarm the drone, no matter what the throttle position, the motors stop. So when I'm flying, that's my, if I'm getting into trouble and I can't recover it, I can just flick the disarm switch and the drone will just fall out of the sky. It's the safest way to recover it. Okay, so our arm and disarm is working. We can test our beeper as well. So there's our bleeper. And our mode switch, you'll hear a beep as we change modes. And on the screen, you can see we're in horizon mode in the middle there. If I move up, angle mode is activated. If I move out, neither of them are activated. And likewise with our arm disarm, we can see that. So our modes are now working. If you arm it and you just hold your finger ever so lightly against the outrunner of the motor, you can feel that each one is currently turning anti-clockwise, and that's not what we want. We need this motor to turn anti-clockwise, this one to turn clockwise, this one to turn anti-clockwise, and this one to turn clockwise. So currently we've got two motors that are turning the wrong way, and we need to reverse those. We can't do it in Betaflight. We need to do it in the BLHeli configurator. We could have also crossed the wires over on this motor and this motor when we were building it, but it's much cleaner to build it this way and then change it in the software configuration. We only need to change that configuration once and then it's set up. So what I'm going to do is disconnect from Betaflight, move over to the BLHeli configurator and click connect. Once I'm connected, I need to click read setup. You need to have a battery connected like we have for this to work. And the bit we're interested in is on the right hand side here, where it says ESC1, ESC2, ESC3 and ESC4. And just explain what the information we have here and what it means. So ESC 1, 2, 3 and 4 are our individual motor controllers. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 on this drone. And if you want to follow the wires back, you can actually see printed on the circuit board which ESC is which. The CH25 is the type of speed controller that we have, and the 16.6 is the firmware version for this particular speed controller. Now we need to reverse number 1 and number 4. So what we're going to do is here where it says motor direction, drop this box down, change it to reversed, and then we're going to click flash firmware. This is important. You need to make sure these two boxes are correctly configured. So the top one, leave it where it is, CH25. The bottom one, we want the same firmware version as we're currently using, 16.6. And then click flash. And you'll see the progress indicator moving up. And when that gets to the top, the firmware has been updated and will make that motor go the opposite direction. That's done. We now need to scroll down and do the same for ESC4. So again, drop it down to reversed, flash firmware, and make sure CH25 and the version is 16.6, or the same version as what you're currently using. That's the important thing to remember, and click flash. And again, if I scroll down, we'll see the progress indicator there. Remember, 16.6 was our firmware. And when that's complete, that's it. That's everything we need to do in BLHeli. So we can then click disconnect and our flight controller will reboot. You'll hear a couple of beeps. That's it. Our flight controller is now configured and our ESCs are configured. So if we arm it, we now can feel that this motor is going clockwise, anti-clockwise, anti-clockwise, clockwise. So these two opposite corners clockwise and these two opposite corners anti-clockwise. The last thing we need to do is check that our fail-safe is working. So this is in case the drone loses signal at any point from the transmitter, and rather than just continuing to fly away, it will just fall out of the sky. That's the point in the fail-safe. It's better for it to fall out the sky than just continue to fly away out of control. So if you arm it and increase your power slightly, not too much, just a little bit so the motors come up to a speed, and then turn off the transmitter by holding both of the power buttons. And a couple of seconds after the power's been lost, the motors will die, the drone will turn its bleeper on so that you can attempt to find it. And if we power it back up again, it gets the signal back and we're back again. So that's it. We now need to put the propellers on and we're ready for a test fly.